And now, moving to the next speakers, we have three speakers. Biborka Horvath. Well, she with a background in psychology and ongoing PhD studies, collaborates with international training and consulting companies, contributing significantly to the field. And then Ronette Radwansky, I'm sorry for my language, a psychologist with a keen interest in combining clinical psychology and law enforcement, has a rich background in the healthcare sector, particularly in oncology and hospice. And Dr. Judy Hegedus has a doctoral dissertation on juvenile delinquency, serves as the head of the Department of Behavior Sciences and Law Enforcement at the Ludovico University of Public Service. So together they will present insights into an NGO government collaboration in Hungary. So let's listen.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Biborka Horvath, and in our presentation with Ronette Radwansky and Dr. Judith Hegedus, we will explore why civil organizations play an important role in the reintegration of prisoners. And then we will describe in detail a successful Hungarian program and the good practice. Unfortunately, Judith cannot join due to her work committees. Sorry for that. Penitentiaries are total institutions with rules governing the entire way of life of the prisoners. These institutions exclude prisoners from the very social patterns that they need to acquire and internalize in order to integrate successfully. Therefore, programs to help prisoners reintegrate into society must be considered with great sensitivity, since the basic aim is to prepare them for release for the very first moment. Many actors are involved in this process, not only prisons institutions, but also other social organizations. Social or civil organizations are generative terms that includes non-profit organizations like associations, foundations, and churches. These organizations contribute to the successful reintegration of people serving their sentences. The primary goal of their activities is to reduce prison suffering by organizing various programs and to break away from monotonous everyday life. Prison is a closed world where prisoners are surrounded by an artificial world and a hostile environment during their sentence, because these institutions are governed by rules that are different from those who live outside this world, and because their thinking and problems are therefore specific and narrowly defined, their main task is to buy their time. Persistent exclusion from society has a number of negative effects on prisoners, including reducing their ability to lead independent lives, weakening their self-esteem, and negatively affecting their ability to communicate. The persons of civil organization can help to reduce these deficits. The main goal of NGOs visiting prisons is to reach out to prisoners in the penitentiary system, to train them, to provide mental health care, and to promote their reintegration. In many cases, in addition to organizing programs, NGOs also provide pastoral care and human attention to prisoners, so that they have someone to talk about problems they cannot solve on their own. prison and the many things that go with it are very difficult to cope with, and they are constantly challenged. And they have a sense of missions and a firm inner conviction that every person is an equal member of society with the right to help. The question can be why there is a need for NGOs within the walls of prisons if the prison service as a state organization has a staff, infrastructure and budget to carry out its statutory task. There are two reasons for this. On the one hand, there is a shortage of staff and often a lack of qualified and experienced professionals. So the cooperating organizations are additional resources. And on the other hand, under ideal conditions, there are tasks that can be better performed by organizations free of bureaucratic constraints and professional routine. In many cases, social organizations can act more effectively, can contract administrative dysfunction, and can make use of their networking capital and experience. They also have the advantage of not being bound by limits of competencies and powers of the public sector. And their strengths are that they are more efficient and in the time management than bureaucratic state organizations, more flexible in their professionalism and able to provide professional alternatives to state policy. By 1989 and 1990, the time of the regime changed. In Hungarian penitentiary system had become a professional organization. There was a revival of church, charitable and social organizations which beating outside of the walls of the institutions have to achieve the goals of the penitentiary system, such as public education, spiritual and intellectual care, and the solution of the difficulties of post-realized integration. The following years were marked by widening of interaction and openness between penitentiary institutions and their environment. In the mid-19th, the legislator considered by desirable to have a system in which official and social organization complement each other activities in the interest of society and prisoners. Consequently, in laying down the detailed rules on the obligation to cooperate, inform, and assist, the law stipulates that the prison shall cooperate with prison missions and associations, religious communities, foundations, educational institutions, and persons carrying out such activities in order to monitor the conditions of detention and to promote social integration after release. In the 2000s, the need for prisons to develop programs to promote the development of the physical and mental capacity of the prisoners and their reintegration after release gradually increased, and several EU and the national programs were successfully implemented in these years. Due to the pandemic COVID-19, in the 2 years of the pandemic, 2020 and 2021, NGOs were allowed to enter prisons for a total of 4 months over 2 years, and the organizations had to switch to an online presence. by presenting to the historical background of the activities of civil society organizations operating in prisons in Hungary. We have outlined the important changes that have taken place in relation to the most important milestones. In the next, we will talk about the issues that may arise in the relation to the introduction of external NGOs related programs and the main steps that need to be taken.
Hi, I would like to continue, as Biborka said, with the dilemmas of introducing external programs. There are a number of initiatives and good practices that really add to the collections of activities in residential education. Before turning to concrete analysis of good practices, it is worth briefly reviving the main steps to be taken when introducing a new program. The first and perhaps one of the most important tasks is to assess needs. It is necessary to examine beforehand what programs are running in the institution, how they fit in with the program we are planning, and whether the institution has the capacity, physical and human infrastructure. When using a new program, it is very important to decide whether to work with external or internal staff. In our experience, although it is easier for NGOs to employ external staff, it is more appropriate to train internal colleagues to run the program in order to ensure the sustainability of the program. The following is a summary of the advantages and disadvantages of using external versus an internal staff member. In case of internal staff, it requires fewer resources. The organization can be more flexible, more simple. They know the characteristics of functioning prisoners and students. You know how the organizational culture works, and the internal staff member will have the opportunity to renew themselves and will give a new impulses for professional development. In case of external collaborator, the institutions receive external professional assistance. Institute staff can draw inspiration from external experts, and it is not the institution that bears the cost of financing the program. When hiring external staff, it should be remembered that this is a very special place, and in order for a program run by an external organization to be effective, it is very important to understand its internal subculture, the rules and characteristics of the closed institutional world. As an outsider, it is necessary to accept that the security regulations in prisons must be observed to the maximum extent possible, and that the pedagogical aspect must be subordinated to these regulations. Another risk that an external colleague may encounter is that of being led by prisoners, becoming a victim of various games. Typical victim games are when, for example, the external professionals are manipulated by the prisoners to make them feel sorry. As an external program manager, it can be a challenge to be very flexible in such a specialized environment, as either changes in staff members or exceptional events can affect the functioning of programs. We believe that in order to bring any external NGO coordinated program into a closed institution, the information mentioned above are worth considering. And now I would like to move on to the good practices from NGOs in the world of closed institutions. One of the most active NGOs in the field of penitentiary education is the Biborka Foundation. In the study, the main target groups were primary, secondary school students in disadvantaged areas, students in adult education and higher education, as well as prison inmates in prisons. Basically, we have tried to model the complexity of primary, secondary, and tertiary crime prevention in our project. But for the purpose of this study, we are only focusing on the prisoners part of the program. In our project, we have adopted a community crime prevention approach in which individual and social responsibility are synergistic. Community crime prevention is based on multidisciplinarity, on the philosophy of criminology, pedagogy, and andragogy. For example, it does not see crime prevention primarily as a law enforcement issue. It doesn't seek to respond to problems with the instruments of power and control, but uses the power, influence, and responsibility of the community to prevent and address problems. In the tertiary crime prevention, the focus is essentially on preventing reoffending. In community-based tertiary crime prevention, we aim to strengthen the social relationships of prisoners. This is also necessary because once in prison, prisoners often become isolated from the outside world, cease to function as decision makers, and lose their autonomy in prison. This is a natural and understandable way of problem solving. And the joint project of the Váltóság Foundation and the Kultúr Association has responded to this need by using methods that are less well known in prisons, like gamification and coaching. Classical play activities are often missing in the lives of prisoners, and it is often apparent that they did not learn to play as children and didn't experience the value of learning how to play. We also consider it very important to include gamification because it can be used to increase motivation, pleasure, and a sense of liberation, and at the same time, because gamification involves making decisions, it also indirectly develops decision-making, problem-solving, communication, and cooperating skills. The Váltóság Foundation has developed a liberation board game called Váltólás. The board game can be used as a release preparation methods for prisoners and as a sensory board game for professionals. The game is based on the first 30 days of release, when the game users tasks called missions to review all the circumstances and challenges that a detainee may face. Overall, the Váltóság Foundation's board game is a new and innovative approach to crime prevention. In recent years, the possibility of using coaching in closed institutions has been raised, including by the Váltóság Foundation. Sorry, can you hear me? I think I lost my internet connection.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. What's a relief. So based on the fact that we work with prisoners living in closed world, often in a stressful environment with the little ability to solve problems and leading an independent life, the application of this method and approach can be a real challenge for both the person providing the coaching and the person receiving it. Coaching is fundamentally future-oriented, focusing on solutions rather than solving problems. In coaching, the coach is able to help the individual to help and change by changing their way of thinking and acting and to find their inner resources. Our experience with them so far tells us that coaching also needs to be used in a very conscious and thoughtful way. As Mercedes Mészáros points out, the use of a limited language code often hinders the coaching process, and the lack of connections and patterns in the lives of detainees also makes it difficult to use the classical tools of coaching. Speaking of prevention, we would like to mention a foundation that deals with the mental health and mental health problems of young people called Kékvonal in Hungary. Numerous studies show that childhood is closely linked to becoming a criminal. This organization, which has been in existence since 1993, is to listen to children and help them if they are in trouble. Although there have been many changes the way Kékvonal operates, the roots remain the same. All the staff and the volunteers work to ensure that children receive genuine care, acceptance, and help them when they are in need. Their anonymous and free services also give children and young people who can't rely on their families or teachers for a help of chance and to make a difference. They find that it's easier to take the first step in a faceless, anonymous way in a conversation that the teenagers can leave at any time. So as a summarization, I would like to tell you that in many ways, the prison service is a closed word, which is reflected in its management, operational and control mechanisms, as well as in its organizational culture. For this reason, the presence of external or non-state actors within the prison walls is a useful area of research. The presence of NGOs within prisons is necessary because their activities can contribute to the process of reintegration of prisoners into society, as their programs introduce prisoners to the social patterns that are necessary for a successful reintegration. In this presentation, we have described the importance of these NGOs, explored the dilemmas involved in organizing outreach programs, and described in more detail a recent good practice that innovatively used coaching, board games, and other new tools to promote the reintegration of prisoners into society. Thank you for your attention.